What's up, Net Soldiers? I'm Net Alliance, and today I'm doing my top 10 favorite moments from the original trilogy. Now, I've also did my top 10 favorite moments from the prequel trilogy as well, so to check that out, make sure to click the link at the top of the screen or in the description below. Now, when we talk about quality compared to prequels and the originals, you can obviously tell that the originals are better films overall. That doesn't mean that the prequels are awful, like people like to say, but I do think that the originals are better when you compare them as movies. And although my personal opinion likes Revenge of the Sith the most, that's just me. I understand that although Revenge of the Sith is my personal favorite, it isn't the best when we're talking about quality-wise. And with that said, there's a lot of awesome moments in the original trilogy, so I'm going to get my top 10 and put it in this list, so let me know your top 10 in the comments below. But without further ado, let's begin. Starting off at number 10, I have Episode 5, The Battle of Hoth. The Battle of Hoth to me, and just the planet itself, is really cool. Pun not intended, by the way. I like the fact that it starts the movie off with a bang. It's kind of like Episode 3 in a way that it just kind of gets you into the action right away, and we get this whole feeling of the Empire coming down on the Rebels, and clearly the Rebels are being pushed back by this immense Empire. Which is interesting to see because at the end of Episode 4, the Rebels had a massive victory over the Empire, and now, in the beginning of Episode 5, the Empire are destroying these Rebels. In fact, the Battle of Hoth was won by the Empire. The Rebels actually had to flee. And just in this opening scene, we see that the Rebels aren't winning. So it really puts the whole war into perspective. Plus, who doesn't like the Tauntauns? The two-legged llamas. Everyone likes two-legged llamas. Coming in at number 9, we have Episode 4, The Cantina Scene. The Cantina Scene has always been a fun one for me, and not just because of that awesome music that I bet plays 24/7 there, but it also does a great job showing you what we're going to be seeing over the next few films. And what I mean by this is it shows you a bunch of different costumes, a bunch of different aliens, all this different stuff that really expands the galaxy before we even get off this one planet. And I really like how it manages to do that. Also, in this scene, we meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, who become pivotal characters later in the series. And we get a great example of what type of guy Han Solo is. When Han and his Rodian friend Greedo are talking at the cantina, and all of a sudden, Han just shoots him. Greedo actually didn't do anything wrong. He just shot at Han, but he didn't actually shoot at him. He kind of aimed away from him, just to scare him. And of course, Han Solo, being the scoundrel he is, decides to shoot this innocent Greedo and kill him. It's just sad. But we get good character development with Han later, so that's okay. At number 8, we have Episode 4, The Destruction of the First Death Star. Now, we knew since we first met the Death Star, it pretty much has to go, because the first time we meet it, we see it destroy a planet. And things that can destroy planets in seconds probably shouldn't be under the control of an evil empire. So one of the coolest parts about this scene is to see the World War II reminiscent dogfights going on, and then of course we get the trench run, all of Luke's friends are dying, Han Solo comes back and actually saves Luke from getting shot down by Vader. Then Luke uses the Force like Obi Wan Kenobi tells him to, and he shoots the missiles down the exhaust shaft, destroying the Death Star and saving the day, ending Episode 4 on a high note. It's a really intense scene with a great payoff, and for that, it's number 8 on this list. At number 7, I have Episode 4, Luke Ignites Anakin's Blade. Now for some of you, you may be thinking, wait a second, the Death Star destruction isn't as good as this? This is just like 5 seconds, why is this so important? And I'd understand that criticism, but for me, Luke picking up Anakin's lightsaber was a symbolic way of showing that Luke is gonna be the next Jedi. It's a great way to show, especially if you just watch the prequels, that Anakin is passing the torch to his son. And although it's Obi-Wan passing Anakin's lightsaber to Luke, considering how close Anakin and Obi-Wan were, in a way, Obi-Wan is kind of like Luke's father too. So although this moment isn't particularly fancy or action-packed or any of that type of stuff, I really believe it's symbolic and special in just that way, and for that reason, it's number 7 on this list. At number 6, we have Episode 4, Kenobi's Sacrifice. For me, this scene is kind of reminiscent of Luke wielding the lightsaber of his father. And as Anakin is passing the torch to Luke, Obi-Wan is also essentially passing the torch to Luke. And although Obi-Wan and Vader's fight is pretty tame compared to the rest we'll see in the franchise, and Obi-Wan's spin was definitely needed and effective, it was the very first lightsaber fight, so there is some merit for that. But overall, it's a really sad scene, because if you think about it, Obi-Wan was really the only link Luke had to his father at the time. And with Obi-Wan's death, that means it's the death of Anakin too. So you can really feel the emotion in the scene as Luke and his friends flee from the Death Star. At number 5, I have Episode 5, Han Solo's Carbonite Fate. This scene is really sad, as we all probably know. Not only is our lovable Han Solo being taken away from us, but also we have the whole music going that makes it all sad. We see Leia and she's so sad and she's hugging Chewie and Chewie's sad too. Everyone's just sad. I think it also just shows just what type of person Han Solo has become. Because before this, we could tell he kind of just cared about himself. It was him and Chewie just taking on the entire universe. But now he was part of something bigger. And although he did change, he still was Han Solo in the end, and he delivered that awesome line.
I love you.
I know.
At number 4, I have episode 4, Owen and Beru's Fate. This scene was so tragic because as far as we know, these people raised Luke. And although they weren't his actual blood relatives, he was actually related to them, technically. So to see Luke's previous life just crash down on top of him, as he comes across the corpses of his uncle and aunt, you can just see it in his eyes. And one of the coolest things about the scene is he looks away from the corpses at first as he doesn't want to believe it. And then he looks right back at them and he just stares at them. And that's the moment where you can see in Luke's mind, he's gonna fight the Empire and he's gonna take them down. Before, he wanted to be a Jedi and fight the Empire and go places. But he was held back by his home. But now that his home is gone and the people he loved is gone, the only thing he can do now is avenge them and become the Jedi he was always meant to be. It's the turning point for Luke and one of the greatest scenes in the entire franchise. At number 3, I have episode 5, the intro of Yoda. This scene is just awesome, it's funny, it's just great. It's funny because Yoda's just a puppet, but every time he's on the screen, he just steals the scene. You can tell he's been alone for a while because he's a little wacky and you think he's going insane a little bit, but considering his past and how he lost all of his friends, I don't blame him. But besides the scene being funny, we also don't realize Yoda is this Master Yoda. Because before this, we're told that Master Yoda is one of the strongest Jedis to ever live. So you honestly don't expect this little creature to be anything special. But then, shortly after, we learn that Yoda is this little crazy green guy. But Yoda himself is the best example of one of my favorite quotes. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Proving that sometimes big things can come in little packages. At number 2, I have episode 5, I am your father. This entire scene leading up to this moment is just great. Luke confronts Vader thinking that he could actually stand a chance, but nope, Vader's kicking his butt. And although Luke has gotten better with his Jedi training, he's still not nearly good enough to take on Vader, which he starts to learn as he starts to get his butt kicked even more. But the fight gets more interesting as we go on, because we can see for a fact that Vader could wipe out Luke whenever he wants, but he doesn't. In fact, it kind of looks like Vader's taking his time, almost like he's preparing for something, just keeping Luke at bay, just for the perfect moment. And then at the end of the scene, we find out exactly why he was doing this. In this scene, we find out Vader didn't actually kill Anakin Skywalker. Vader is Anakin Skywalker. And the realization that Luke Skywalker's father is this Dark Lord completely destroys Luke inside as he lets out a screech of anger. And one of the craziest things about this scene is because when Luke got his hand cut off, he was like, ah, my hand. But once he found out Vader was his father, he started to like cry. You know what I mean? Like that is completely different. And that just goes to show just how much this realization was destroying Luke inside. So I think overall, the lightsaber choreography got better. The score was dark and amazing, and the entire scene was done perfect. And that's why it's number 2 on my list. And finally, at number 1, I have episode 6, Anakin's Return. For me, if you're gonna watch the first 6 films in episodic order, if you wanna know the different orders, there's a link at the top of the screen, go check out that video after this one. It's pretty enjoyable. But anyways, if you're gonna watch these films in episodic order from episode 1 to episode 6, this is the perfect ending to the entire saga. We saw Anakin grow and become a Jedi, then we saw him turn to the dark side, and now his son has brought him back to the light. And to see Anakin Skywalker finally return after all this time, it's so rewarding. The tone, the lightsaber fight, just everything about this scene makes it awesome. And it makes for one epic conclusion to an epic saga. And it's for that reason I have it at number 1 on my list. But of course, this is all just my opinion. What is your opinion? What are your top 10 favorite scenes from the original trilogy? Let me know in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.